Okay, so welcome. My name is James Holmes at James Holmes Studio, and with me is my friend and fellow artist, Nicole Jirtle. And we wanted to invite you all into our artist conversation today. And we're just kind of exchanging some ideas about the creative process, and thought it'd be interesting to kind of give you guys a peek inside of our conversation. So Nicole, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, James. How are you?
I'm good. I'm energized from this conversation we've been having this afternoon.
Yeah, always.
It's an interesting thing to just explore creativity, and the influences creativity has on our lives. And
Absolutely. Yeah, the process really carries over. It's a good lesson in perseverance and risk taking and just thinking outside the box.
we'll share a little bit about your path to becoming an artist, just for those who have not had a chance yet to meet you.
So, I was going through a difficult time maybe the most difficult time in my life. And I needed a healthy escape. And when I moved to Colorado from San Francisco, I just happened to be friends with a lot of artists out here, and I loved what they did. I loved their lifestyle. I loved their passion that they had for their work. I had always just told myself, I'm not creative, I'm not an artist. I had never really attempted to create art before. And I was watching a Brene Brown TED Talk. It might have been The Power of Vulnerability. And she had this quote that really resonated with me. I'll never forget it. She said, unused creativity is not benign. And I take that as I feel like I've had like some excessive energy, in my life, so like just zeal, maybe you could call it. And I figured I might as well try out, some abstract paint pouring, just to find a channel, just to occupy myself and kind of process the situation that I was going through. And I started playing around with color and just applying the paint, just choosing the color, like which colors are going to go together. It's such an engaging process, and it kind of brings me into this meditative flow state. It felt very natural. It turns out I just needed to try it. And yeah, I started painting, and I started loving painting. So I painted more, and yeah, here I am now.
How long ago was that you began this path, specific path?
It was about, I think, the same month that you started painting. So was that almost 3 years ago now?
Yeah, I started, it was, for me, it was kind of dabbling late March, and then really starting to get into a practice of painting April of 2018. So yeah, going on 2.5 years, heading towards 3 years this upcoming spring.
Yeah. I think I was maybe 2 months ahead of you. Yeah.
And it's nice the way that we met. And we met through the Veterans Arts Council gallery down in the Art District on Santa Fe. And I think your expression of appreciation for my work and the way we first met, I think really kind of created like instant friendship.
I loved it. I saw some of your pieces, and I was like, who is this guy? I was asking other people at the gallery. And I was on a mission to meet you. The way you were expressing yourself, it just felt very akin to what I have inside myself. Your use of color, composition, just bold, often bright. Very kind of celebratory, but elegant at the same time. Yeah, I was excited to meet you.
Well,
Oh,
and
oh, you're James Holmes.
and I recognize, some commonality, I think, in the work that you were doing at that time, that was at the gallery at that time, the palette knife paintings. There was a lot of things that we had in common, I think, in terms of kind of a part of our exploration. Although I will say that one of the things that I've admired about you as an artist from the very beginning was a recognition that you have the courage and the curiosity to explore with a lot of different medium. Because I know, from the pieces you brought and sold at the gallery and the things that I've purchased for my collection from you, it goes across 2 or 3 different applications of medium.
We can also thank my short attention span for that. I had just entered this world of art. I felt like I had 35 years worth of catching up to do. There are so many different mediums, and art is play. It's work, but it's based in play, which is kind of the ideal balance.
Right.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I loved working with resin. I'll probably resume that pretty soon. I need to take a little break.
Well, I'm in my home office, and I have some of your art in my home office. So this I love, and this is a piece that you did with alcohol ink, I believe. And
Yeah.
so what are the materials here? There's about 3 or 4 different materials and/or process involved in creating this.
So I took Yupo paper and applied alcohol ink and moved it around intentionally. And then I varnished it with epoxy resin. Oh, onto a tile. I adhered it onto a tile with epoxy resin.
Yeah. and then also my desk is it's got a couple of other of your pieces on it too. So these pieces are a lot of fun.
Yep, I dried those flowers. I stuck some crystals in there. I think quartz and pyrite, and the alcohol inks give it the color.
Yeah, it's beautiful. If I could spin my camera around, I'd show you one of your paintings too that you let go of. I'm happy to have.
Oh, you're in my living room right now.
I'm a Nicole Jirtle collector, I think. I once heard something that when a collector buys your work, this is something that's really important for us as artists to understand this. When a collector buys your work, they will, over time, on average, end up with 5 pieces of your work.
Okay, all right. I need to start stocking up on my James Holmes pieces. Price range before they're on Sotheby's.
Well, it's been an interesting journey for sure. What would you say in terms of your path, the art? What is the thing that art's done most for you? Like, have you thought about that? Like, what is it that it's meant
I
the
think
most?
about it often. It's the I can't say I don't know if I could pick out one thing that it's done most for me. I love the community aspect of it. I love meeting fellow artists and bouncing ideas back and forth. Because artists are always characters in my experience.
I agree.
They're really boring.
Wonderful characters. Yes.
I love the community aspect. I love that I've entered a field where I knew nothing about. I knew what art I liked, but I had no idea about technique and mediums and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's very exciting to have this fresh, brand new world that's so multidimensional. But I love that I love that creating art requires a certain degree of audacity and a little bit of fearlessness. You have to push yourself out of your comfort zone, especially when you're first starting out. And we're both self-taught. You got to take risks and learn by trial and error, and you have to, not be afraid to fail, because, we're going to fail every now, not every piece is going to end up at Sotheby's. So it can be it's both humbling and empowering, I would say, very much so. Yeah, I like the fluidity of mind that it requires and that it kind of instates in me. How about you? What's your favorite thing about being an artist?
It's so my full-time job, and I want to start with that in terms of what art has done in my life. So my full-time job is as executive director of Cherokee Ranch and Castle Foundation. And one of the things that I recognize that's different in the way that I think about problem solving has become heavily influenced by creativity.
Mm.
So whereas before, in a place like Cherokee Ranch, I mean, it's a 3,400 acre cattle ranch with a cattle or castle that's like a near 100-year-old building. There's always something being presented, right, that becomes a challenge. And sometimes those challenges are large. And whereas before, I think I really relied on the analytical part of my thinking process to solve a practical problem. And I think since spending this last 2.5 years in pursuing my path as an artist, it's caused me to be a lot more creative in looking at a problem and then finding creative solutions or adaptive solutions to facts. And so that's been a huge influence. I just want to say that is not the most important thing, but it's a very important thing that I've noticed that art has brought to my life.
So the most adaptable is what Darwin meant. Yep.
Yeah, and in this period of time with the sudden, presence of COVID-19 in this pandemic, it's been vital to be creative because things are changing, especially in the beginning, the first 90 days or so of this. Literally every day there were significant changes and shifts that needed to be adapted to. And so I'm very grateful for the creative part of my brain that's helped me to really kind of work that into my problem solving at Cherokee. I think on a personal side, it's very much echoing much of what you've said, which is the community. I have made, you included, have made tremendous new friendships that are really important in my life. I enjoy getting out and seeing art. I've been involved in the art community really through as a collector and philanthropy and in volunteer service. I've been at the Art Museum as a trustee for 17 going on 18 years.
Yes.
So I've been around art.
You're on the board.
And I'm on the trustees board, yes. And so being on the board of the museum and having some friends in that capacity is different than being a maker, actually being in the position of creating art, because it's now plugging into the artist side of the local art scene. And the personalities and the individuals and the commonality of purpose and finding resonance and just values has really been rewarding. And so, making new friendships, exploring art differently. I go to you and I last week went to the Clifford Still as a gift to celebrate your birthday, and that was wonderful. And going to the Clifford Still now as a working artist, and going to the Clifford Still 3 or 4 years ago as just someone that's a patron going to look at Still's paintings is completely a different experience for me personally. I get so much inspiration from Clifford Still, and I see his work so much differently now than I did before. And really what I think that's about is being in the process of making work and having a clear understanding of what it took to get that painting on the wall. And so it's added a lot, art's added a lot to my life just in terms of opening up a whole new world of friendships and perspectives and applications of thought.
We're so blessed to be in Denver. The art scene here is so vibrant, and it's so, I would say, collaborative and encouraging.
Yes.
We have 2 different art districts, and there's just so much amazing street art. And yeah, just I would say Colorado has a pretty youthful spirit in general, which is accommodating to our profession.
Yeah, it definitely is. I agree with that.
Yeah.
The being involved in the art district, we talked already a little bit about the Veterans Arts Council, but just the whole idea of being able to have a district to be able to go to and have so much inspiration, all the artists that are down there, the galleries, that also feeds a lot in terms of just creativity, just informing that process.
Absolutely. Especially right now with COVID and just what's going on in the world right now, it's so nice to have an outlet. I can't call it a distraction, but something to channel my energy into and to focus on and to just pour my soul into. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to express and continue learning and continue being inspired. It keeps me optimistic, which I believe helps keep me healthy.
Absolutely. We were talking earlier before we started this video recording about the power of gratitude. And that in times that are challenging like these are, and to be able to have something to look towards that you can identify as something to be grateful for is really important to working through and navigating times like this. And certainly the art practice and friendships within the practice and the work that you have that you appreciate, whether it's your own work or work that you've admired of other artists, all things that really help with that.
Yeah, it's absolutely. Gratitude is key. I think it's maybe the key factor to happiness. There's always more to be grateful for than to stress out about. And as long as we stay mindful, and creating art keeps me, it's a very present, it helps strengthen my capacity for presence and mindfulness. Which is, it's great.
Ideally, when do you paint? I mean, ideally for you, like what is the perfect, are you a late night painter, an early morning painter, a painter?
I try to start painting early afternoon or later afternoon, I should say. I tilled up my backyard in the spring and sowed it with 7 or 8 pounds of wildflowers. So it's just a jungle out there, and my studio looks out onto the backyard. So I just have a constant stream of very striking subjects to be inspired by. And it changes throughout the season. But I'm a nocturnal person. I think naturally. I've tried to flip, but I paint at night. I like it because the world's a little bit quieter, distractions are more limited. And I can just dive into whatever's on my easel.
Yeah.
That actually looks like
Right.
situation to dive into right there. Yeah, water's warm. And you paint at night also, correct?
It's interesting. I've had to make a shift. So when I first started 2 years ago, absolutely, that's when I paint. I would go down at night, and I usually start at 9 o'clock, something like that, once things kind of quiet down here at home. And my studio was in my basement, and I would just get started. And usually, how it goes, 3 or 4 hours pass and you don't even realize it. And it's like 1 a.m. And I began this practice where I would just, when I got to that point, I just would shut off the lights and, go to bed. And then I come downstairs first thing in the morning with my coffee, and I do what I call meeting the painting in the morning. Someone wrote to me, someone wrote to me on Facebook once that the painting gods visit your paintings in the night and unlock all kinds of secrets into your consciousness. And so I started doing that practice. In fact, I recorded a lot of those sessions where I'm just introducing a painting for the first time, meeting the painting in the morning. In November, I moved my studio out of my home into a studio space down in the art district on Santa Fe. So that's changed everything, because I really, I'm not down there at 9 o'clock at night or 1 in the morning. I tend to, because of my primary work at Cherokee Ranch, during the week, if I paint, it's usually early evening. So I'll go down there around 5:30 or so, and I'll spend a couple of hours, which is actually a lot of time. And I'll paint for a couple of hours and then come back. So most of my painting, though, my focus time, unrestricted, where I can just be free to create, is on the weekends. So I become really a Saturday, Sunday, late morning, afternoon painter. And I agree with your comment regarding the world being quieter. I do like the feeling of the night. I think it is a little more quiet. I have a lot of like energy of like I want to spend my day. So sometimes it's a discipline thing to like stay put. Like I'll go to the studio, then I want to go and like go across the street and visit Grace Noel, who's right across the street from me, or I want to go see my friend Mona Lucero, or I'll like want to leave and go do things.
Yeah.
Go to Recreative and find, So a lot of times for me, it's like being like disciplined to say, okay, I'm here to have my focus time. So what I've been doing is going in, and if I can paint for a couple of hours, I give myself a break and say, okay, now you can go and do whatever you want to do for a couple of hours and come back. And so that's how I've kind of managed that.
Well, I can attest that your creativity has not suffered with your time adjustment whatsoever. You just you're progressing exponentially. And every time I come into your studio, I'm surprised by the new piece that you're working on. And you're getting bigger and bolder. I love, it's really enjoyable watching you paint. The other day we were listening to King of Limbs by Radiohead, and I noticed that your canvas started looking kind of like the album cover. Maybe I was projecting that partially, but yeah, just it like you add one color and it changes the whole thing, like just immediately. It's really encouraging and inspiring to paint with you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. And that's something I've enjoyed doing as well, because I think that exchange of energy, and it's interesting because you set up, I set up, and we paint, and it's like sometimes we talk and sometimes we just paint.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to watch each other's work as the time begins to settle in, because once you get into the flow, I don't know for you, but I think for me, I just kind of lose track of what's going on and just I'm focused. And then coming out of that is really interesting and saying, oh, what have you been up to?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
I love that flow state. That's an ideal state. I find it when I'm doing yoga, when I'm meditating, and when I'm painting, when you're just not you just get lost in time and you're just absorbed in your work. It's a really privileged, I feel like it's a very privileged place to find myself. It's ideal.
It's certainly one of the gifts, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, what are you working on now in terms of just, part of what I think about is our earlier conversation, we were talking a little bit about COVID-19 and, shifts, and you can share some of that if you want to, or if there's anything else that you want to comment on. But I'm curious as to what, we are in a pandemic, we are in this altered state, our normal routine, which for both of us, I think had been, first Friday art walk at the Veterans Arts Council, second Saturday, preparing to bring our work in to be juried back in for the next cycle, third Friday, art of brunch, and then doing it all over again. So last year there was this flow where there was just always either we're showing, or we are constantly showing, and then preparing for the next round. And that suddenly stopped, in March of this year. So what kind of shifts have you made that have been impacted by or motivated by the pandemic?
So for reasons not related to art, for reasons I would say that are the opposite of art, I have had to limit my time on social media lately. I just have to. I can't like really take an extended break from my Instagram or my Facebook account, because that is like how I'm getting my art out right now.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I got to a point where I was almost scared to open up, not scared, but just apprehensive of opening up my laptop. It's what's in here.
Yeah, you're talking about some of the political discourse and the kind of divisive nature of where we are right now in this country, and the personal attacks that happen on social media.
Irrationality. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the chaos and confusion.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like if I lose track of my time while I'm on social media, I just start absorbing. I've seen people fall into like kind of states of hopelessness and rage, and I have to avoid that at all costs. So I have been painting. I've been spending a lot of time out in nature, and I've been doing my best to honor nature in my paintings. I've been doing a lot of abstract florals that are heavily textured in acrylic.
They're beautiful, by the way.
Yeah,
I love those. Yeah.
My little micro celebrations.
In due time, I think that'll be my 6th Nicole Jirtle piece in my collection. Like one of those. I love them. They're beautiful.
Flowers are just the most beautiful. Humans couldn't create anything that would rival a flower. They're just, yeah.
And I am a little envious of your summer of nature, because you definitely have gotten out and ridden your bike or ran or hiked or paddleboarding now is your new thing you're exploring. But you've gotten out there. I like to have done more of that this summer, and so
paddleboarding.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yes.
Yeah. So I applaud you for that, for maintaining some balance and inspiration too. It shows up in your work.
Exercise helps my creativity flow a lot more easily, I've found. When I get out there and move, and kind of my body starts shaking off some of the cortisol and stress. We just have to move. It invigorates me. It's kind of like hitting the refresh button. So that helps inform my art. And we're so lucky in Colorado. There's so much to see and do, and it's
Incredibly beautiful.
Gorgeous out. I just saw the aspens a few days ago up in the mountains. It's breathtaking. Yeah, very inspiring.
Yeah, we're very lucky here. Well, let's wrap this up and so let everyone know how they can find you out on that mysterious internet, and also with your website.
Yeah, just stay on the art sites. You'll be safe there.
Yes.
I am in the midst of a website transition right now. So my handle is Pigments of My Imagination on both Facebook and Instagram. My garden Instagram is Flowers Gone Wild. But how can we find you, James?
Find me on Facebook and Instagram both at James Holmes Studio, and on the web at jamesholmesstudio.com. And I just launched a new YouTube page too, and this video may be like one of the first there. That would be interesting, actually, when I post this. And that's at James Holmes Studio as well. So those are the places that can be found. So thanks for taking the time to do this. This has been fun. I love, these are kind of conversations we get to enjoy, not only one-on-one, but also in our collaboration group with our other art cohorts on a weekly basis, which has really been another great experience from the path. But it's fun to maybe open up and let folks participate a little bit in how we exchange, ideas, and what the art path has meant to both of us, and the hopes of inspiring others at the end of the day.
Yes, inspiration is contagious, and I thank you so much. You're such a bright ray of light and positivity and inspiration. So,
Well, as are you. So thank you very much, Nicole.
everybody. All right.